In the still of the night, I think of you. My heart beats with every thought of you.
The next morning, Helen sat in front of her mirror and stared at herself. She had this uncertain feeling about the action she had decided to take. Was it the right one? Would it be misunderstood? Would he think it was all a ploy on her part to get him to notice her? Yes, he might see her as another desperate girl looking for his favors. Let him think what he will, she said to herself. He would soon realize that she wasn't there to jump him like he would think at first, and then he would become thoroughly disappointed. Helen smiled. Maybe there was some enjoyment to be had in this mission impossible of hers, after all. She got up from the chair. She had to do it. She had no other plan of penetrating her dark and foggy past to find out what secret it held. She had no other connection to her past but her red purse. Some might question why she had to go this early in the morning. She had only one good reason. There was the barbecue party that Mma had mentioned, and she wanted to carry her red purse. She didn't care if she was believed or not. If he had not stolen that first kiss that got her so spooked that she ran out from the car forgetting her purse, she wouldn't be here in her room, afraid and at the same time excited. She heaved a sigh and looked around the scantily furnished room. Her living room was even less furnished. She had her television, music system, and nothing else. Music was a major part of her life. It inspired her creativity and somehow helped her to reach within herself. So she had that, 2 armchairs and a rug. She had never felt the need to add more furniture and never cared. She had put it down to not knowing where she came from. She didn't want to put down roots or become too attached only to wake up one morning and remember. Dragging herself back to the present, it was no use, she chided herself. Thinking about it would never make it any easier. She just had to live with it the best way she could and wait and hope that she would hit her head and remember. Then she turned to look at herself in the mirror. She was still half dressed. She took some steps back and looked at herself. She became a bit irritated. She was skinny and didn't have all the curves that Mma was so proud of. Try as much as she could never add an ounce. Helen sighed. On the other hand, she was cinnamon in complexion, like Mma kept telling her. Okay, she had beautiful eyes that were light brown in color, that only Mma had complimented. She had full lips that were too white for her face. Her best feature was her smile. Okay, for that one she had received compliments, but she didn't smile always. What did she have to smile about? Then she chided herself. She had her job. She was the head designer and co-owner of Mma's new lingerie line, and she was talented. She looked back at the mirror and gave herself a once-over. At least, everyone says she was talented. Standing at 5'6", she wasn't short. She was curvy enough for a slim girl. She had long shapely legs and $1 million smile. Then she stopped. $1 million smile? That sounded like something someone had said to her before. She sat down and tried to remember, but all she met was dark nothingness. With frustration, she marched to the closet and threw it open. She didn't want to look desperate, intimidated, or defeated. She knew as much as she knew that Helen was probably not her name, that clothes could have any of those effects on a person. She wanted to look classy, with an air of nonchalant, but with a very simple sophistication. So she withdrew a dress and marched to the mirror. She was impressed. She wondered what Chuck would think when he saw her. She wondered if he would be impressed. Come on, Helen, she scolded herself. The guy only dated beauty queens and supermodels. That was correct, she agreed and started on her makeup. Makeup was not her thing, even though Mma had always encouraged her had even given her a few pointers. She applied a soft pink lip gloss and outlined her eyebrows. She had found out that it made her huge eyes appear dreamy and mysterious. She also added mascara to emphasize her long lashes. Then she brushed out her long waist-length hair. She smiled at the effect. "I look good," she told her reflection. She took down her brown sunglasses in case the sun became too unbearable. But she stopped as she was about to go and heaved a sigh. Suddenly she was nervous. Okay, she was attracted to the man. Best she accepted that and deal with it before it came out at the wrong time to bite her. But who wouldn't be? Every hot-blooded woman with two good eyes would be attracted to him. But that wasn't why she was going there. She told herself through gritted teeth to stop being excited. Helen stepped into the fresh and cool morning air. It was a bit chilly because it rained the night before. It was still dark and there were flashes of lightning every now and then. She wondered why she had thought of sunglasses and not a jacket. She took measure of her surroundings. Usually that was the first thing she did whenever she entered a place or came outside. She had taught herself to stop looking over her back, but habits were hard to break, especially when you didn't have your memories and felt that you were constantly in danger. It didn't help that her earliest memory was waking up on a strange street, half beaten to death. Someone was after her. She shivered again, but this time not from cold, but from sheer dread. The constant feeling of being watched or being followed was always there. Without waiting another second, she ducked into her cab as it arrived. She sat back and relaxed, trying to shut off her busy mind. She needed all her wits about her if she was going to survive Chuck. Helen watched terrified as the cab drew to a stop in front of the mansion that was Chuck house. Her heart dropped to her feet when she saw the giant of a gate with 2 uniformed guards stationed there. She didn't think of the gate or the guards. She never gave a thought to how she was going to get inside the house. She should be glad that the charade was not going to happen after all. But she found out that she was disappointed instead, and she became quite confused about that. Helen sat back, transfixed, not knowing what to do. The more she thought about it, the more she realized that she couldn't go back. What she needed was a believable fib to get herself past those guards. She could tell them she was a relative. That would explain her coming this early. She discounted that when she remembered that she had heard that Chuck was more or less an orphan. His only living relative were his rascal younger brother and his adopted family. She heaved a sigh. She should face it. It would not work. Chuck would be at Mma's party later in the day, and she could seize that opportunity to ask him for it. The only thing wrong with that plan was that she might never get the chance to ask him. His supermodel white girlfriend would glue to him like poison ivy, shooting owl's eyes at any girl who came close. "We are here, madam," the cab driver said, cutting into her thoughts. Helen took a deep breath. It was now or never. There was no turning back. Maybe what the guy needed was to see her like this, all dressed up, sophisticated and alone to fall for her. Shocked at herself, she grabbed her bag and began to rummage inside it for money to pay the driver. Where had that thought come from? She would not deny that a part of her wished for that, but the reality was, she wasn't his type. Chuck dated voluptuous beauties. How could it be possible that a man who was so used to the most beautiful women there were in the world fall for her? She laughed aloud but stopped when the driver gave her a look that suggested she wasn't normal. She quickly paid the man and came down on shaky legs and let out her breath as she walked towards the mansion. She stilled her thoughts as she stood and faced one of the guards. Helen flashed him her $1,000,000 smile, hoping to soften the ground, but the man didn't budge one bit. She decided to try the straightforward way. Good morning. I'm here to see Mr. Chuck. And you are? Helen almost forgot her name. I am Helen from Mma. Is he expecting you? Not exactly, but Mma, that is Mrs. Okoha, said she would call ahead. Wait here. The man went inside and Helen released her pent-up breath. That was easy, she thought. Then she began to feel guilty. She shouldn't have brought Mma into her scheme. What if Chuck called Mma to verify her story? Jeez, good work, Helen, she said to herself in disgust. That would surely endear the man to her. She stopped. She wasn't here to endear the man to herself. She was here to get her purse, simple and nothing more. The man came out at that precise moment. Okay, here comes the verdict. Helen prepared herself to enter the world of Chuck Obi. I am sorry, miss, but Mr. Obi is still sleeping and cannot be woken. You will have to come back. The blow was a huge surprise and disappointing. After all the trouble she had gone through to get there, she couldn't just go back empty-handed. No, I can't come back. I have to get to work now. You can come back after work. After work is Uche and Mma's party. I am sure Mr. Obi would be there. That would solve the problem. Good day, miss. The man began to turn around. Hey, can't I just wait for him? I am sure he would soon be up. It's almost 8. Who sleeps that long anyway? The man gave her a dismissal look. Helen couldn't believe it for a moment. To be so close and yet, a horn blared behind her and she turned in time to see a sports car drive towards her. Please, don't let it be Uche, Stanley or Eva, she prayed. That would be the most embarrassing thing that would ever happen to her. Whoever was driving the car wound down the window and Helen's heart skipped several beats. Hi, the driver said. He turned out to be a very handsome young man in his 20s. Is something wrong? He asked. Helen was too busy thanking God that it wasn't anybody she knew to answer the man. Then she heard the guard answering his question. She's looking for your brother. She's from Uche's wife. But your brother is still sleeping. Helen couldn't believe it. This handsome man was Chuck's brother. Chuck is half caste. And this man here was full black. Helen, right? The driver asked. Helen nodded because she couldn't bring herself to speak. He opened the passenger's door for her. Come in, I will take you to him. You know, maybe I should take the guard's advice and come back. Why? He smiled at her. When you can see him now? Are you going to just wake him for me? I bet he is not still sleeping. By the way, I'm Collins. He's my brother, but you already know that. Yes, I do. And I'm Helen. I work for Mma, but you already know that. Collins laughed. That's new. What's new? You just accept I am his brother, no questions asked. I bet you get that a lot. Collins gave her a full lusty look. What's happening here? She prayed. Don't let this brother have a crush on her when she had her sights on his older brother. Here we are, beautiful. Helen got out of the car and looked around the house in awe. It is beautiful. Not as much as you are. She decided to keep quiet as Collins led her inside. That was a compliment. Was it? I thought I was being compared to a house. He laughed again and opened the door, and Helen was led into the most exquisite living room she had ever seen. Wow! She couldn't help the exclamation. Helen shook her head in wonder of it. You really want to see my brother? Helen turned to face him with a smile. That is why I'm here. I've got to change my clothes, take a bath. So take the stairs to the penthouse, open the first door you come to, you will see him. Helen frowned. Just like that? I mean, that is more like barging in on him. It is a suite, so you are not like barging in. Helen wasn't still convinced. Do you want to see him or not? Since you're already here, I guess you want to see him. He smiled. I do, but I don't think his girlfriend would appreciate it if I show up in their bedroom. Collins chuckled. His girlfriend. I got it on good authority that the supermodel came back with him. You have nothing to worry about. Okay? First door, penthouse. Right, he said, leaving her to disappear through one of the doors. Helen turned and began to climb the stairs she was told led to Chuck's suite on legs that were shaky. Shouldn't she insist that they announce her to him? And maybe he would come to see her in the living room. Well, Collins must know the best way to approach his brother. She assured herself. Or not, she thought, suddenly afraid. Maybe he was setting her up. He looked the kind to do that sort of thing. And he certainly looked young enough to play that kind of prank on his big brother. Or on any unsuspecting female. Helen sighed, trying to get a firm hold on her straying mind. She knocked on the door before she could panic and turn tails. No one opened the door after her third knock, so she turned the knob and walked into a smaller living room. It was empty save for the exquisite and masculine furniture, so she came in and looked around. There were 2 large boxes on the floor yet to be opened. She then recalled that he came in last night. So where was he? She didn't have time to wait until he appeared from wherever. All of a sudden, she wanted the whole charade to be over and done with. There was another door at the opposite end of the room, so she walked to it and opened the door. It was a bedroom, and her eyes connected with the bed. And what she saw took her breath away, and with that, her reasoning ability. On the bed was 6 feet 4 of her every desire. She swallowed hard. No one had the right to be this beautiful in sleep. She took a step forward. She couldn't help herself. She could see herself leaning down to kiss those lips that usually appeared hard and stubborn, but in sleep looked soft and beckoned on her to lean over.
In the still of the night, I think of you. My heart beats with every thought